Chapter 1765. Haha. When Yu Tiancheng's voice fell instantly, a young girl's crisp laughter came from behind him. Luo Qingtong originally appeared behind Yu Tiancheng and the others with a murderous look. She followed the time reversal image in her eyes and chased all the way here. Very quickly, she found the scene where Yu Tiancheng and the others met with Yu Sihuang and Yu Xingqi. After that, she rushed over with Yi Qianxian. She didn't expect to hear such explosive words the moment she came here. Luo Qingtong held back her laughter as she looked at the man beside her. In the end, she still couldn't hold it in. Ha ha ha. Her laughter was exceptionally crisp and pleasant to the ears. In an instant, it reverberated between heaven and earth. Who? Hearing her laughter instantly, Yu Tiancheng's heart was shocked. He fiercely turned his head and immediately saw the figures floating in the air, like a pair of immortal couple, Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian. The man was wearing a black golden robe. Golden robes were originally the most expensive. At the same time, it was also the most tacky. But at this moment, this golden robe with black stripes was forcibly suppressed by Yi Qianxian's aura. The man didn't even show his face, but this golden robe became his embellishment. It made people feel that the domineering and noble aura in this robe all came from him. Buddha in golden robe also emitting light. Demon with golden edges, demon also like Buddha. The man's aura was both immortal and demon, domineering and biting cold, unpredictable. And Luo Qingtong was wearing a black robe. The cut was clean and neat, showing off her domineering and noble aura. Wearing that oppressive black robe, she exuded a devilish and unrestrained aura. And charming and beautiful. That pair of slanted beautiful eyes flashed with a bloody light, just like the world's most beautiful jade and amber. The noble beauty of this place was hard to describe. The moment he saw Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian, Yu Tiancheng's heart fiercely jumped. Who are you people? He shouted sternly. But his voice was indescribably fierce in appearance but weak in heart. These two people, no matter who it was, the aura emitted from their body was not something he could compare to. Yu Tiancheng was once incomparably jealous of Yu Sihuang. Because the other party's talent was better than his, stronger than his strength. No matter if it was appearance or talent, he firmly suppressed him. He didn't even have the heart to compare with the other party. Even if Yu Sihuang had heart disease. But at this moment, in front of Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian, he couldn't even raise a trace of jealousy in his heart. Sister. Just as he shouted with a cold expression, Yu Xingqi had already dashed in front of Luo Qingtong and jumped into her arms. Sister, you're finally here. This sinister fellow bullied brother and me. You've got to vent Yu Xingqi was overjoyed. She didn't expect Luo Qingtong and the others to arrive so quickly. Yu's came. It took Yu Tiancheng a while to find them. Yu Xingqi's words sounded. Yu Tiancheng's heart was like a drum, thumping violently. Sister. He looked at Luo Qingtong in shock. Suddenly he remembered what Yu Xingqi said. Let me tell you, evil Dr. Gui Tong is my sister, Yi Jiao is my brother, Blackfield Mingzun is my brother-in-law. Evil Dr. Gui Tong. This young lady was evil Dr. Gui Tong. Chapter 1766. Yu Tiancheng's gaze moved from Luo Qingtong to Yi Qianxian, looking at the two of them holding hands. In an instant his vision darkened. The other party was Blackfield Mingzun. That was Blackfield Mingzun. Just then Yu Sihuang's cold snort sounded. Your son is here, why aren't you welcoming him? Son. Yu Tiancheng suddenly recalled the words he said just now, and his brain instantly exploded with a buzzing sound. Bang! He turned to run. However, just as he moved, Yi Qianxian waved his sleeve. Boom! An extremely violent and overbearing aura swept out from Yi Qianxian's sleeve, and instantly swept past where Yu Tiancheng was. His figure had just disappeared from where he stood, leaving only a faint shadow behind. His movements were so fast, it was obvious that he had already used his trump card and forbidden technique. However, even so, the aura that Yi Qianxian blasted out still chased after the place where he disappeared. Boom! Yu Tiancheng's figure fell out from the void on the other side, and his entire body was split into two. His corpse fell on the ground and blood rained down from the sky. Until the moment of his death, his eyes were wide open, filled with disbelief. He never thought that he had already escaped into the void, but Yi Qianxian's attack could still chase after him and kill him. What kind of terrifying strength was this? In front of the other party he couldn't escape at all. Blackfield Mingzun's strength was actually so strong. Furthermore, wasn't he at odds with Yu Huang? He even gave the order to chase after him. He didn't let him enter East region. Even if evil Dr. Gui Tong recognized Yu Xingqi as his sister, he wouldn't personally come to South region to help Yu Huang. What was going on? Yu Tianqing died with his eyes wide open. As for Yu Huang, seeing the scene of Yi Qianxian killing Yu Tianqing, he instantly snorted and muttered, "Showing off." If it wasn't for his lack of strength, he could also do it. What was this man showing off? Yu Huang looked at Yi Qianxian's action of hugging Luo Qingtong unhappily. This feeling of being saved by his love rival when he was at his lowest point and being shown off. Damn it, so angry. Yu Huang's face was gloomy. If Luo Qingtong wanted to come, so be it. He could accept a beauty saving a hero. When necessary, he could even vomit blood to win the sympathy of the beauty, and enjoy her gentle care and whatnot. In the end, Yi Qianren was here too. What was going on? Hurry and leave. After watching this joke, quickly get lost. You stared at Yi Qianxian. After Yu Tianqian's lips, Tianchong said, "Yi Qianxian's SS, Yi Qiu's. Weak chicken." Yi Qianxian's voice was cold. His expression didn't change much and his eyes didn't fluctuate. However, Yu Huang felt a deep sense of disdain from his body. Fuck. The veins on his forehead almost popped out. This man, who did he say was a weak chicken? Yu Huang rolled up his sleeves and wanted to rush up and fight Yi Qianxian. Why was this man bullying him when his strength wasn't there? If he had the ability, then he should have the same strength as him. Let's see who's weak. AI brother. Chapter 1767. He definitely couldn't let him fight with Mingzun. Otherwise, based on his stupid brother's current situation where he didn't have any strength, it would be strange if he didn't get abused until he started doubting his life. Brother. At that time you'll lose even more face in front of sister. Yu Xingqi felt that he was worried to death for his stupid brother. And Luo Qingtong was looking at the man beside her with a funny face. This man was really getting more and more childish. Why did he purposely provoke Yu Huang? Yi Qianxian looked at her gaze, snorted coldly and didn't say anything. Just now when Yu Huang said he was Yu Tiancheng's son, he heard it clearly. And the surrounding imperial sect people were already dumbfounded. When Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian appeared, their figures were suppressed to the ground. Now seeing Yu Tianqing die in Yi Qianxian's hands, and it was an instant kill without any effort, everyone's hearts were indescribably shocked. Their figures were also trembling violently. They continuously kowtowed on the ground and begged for mercy. At this moment, all the people who supported Yu Tianqing when he rebelled were filled with regret in their hearts. If they knew that Yu Huang and Yu Xingqi were familiar with Blackfield, Mingzun and evil Dr. Gui Tong, they wouldn't cooperate with Yu Tiancheng's action of seizing power, not to mention taking the initiative to change sides, following him to deal with Yu Huang and Yu Xingqi siblings. So what if Yu Huang wasn't the previous sect master's son? He was the appointed successor of imperial sect, and Yu Xingqi didn't mind that he wasn't his parents' blood. What did they have to care about? To put it bluntly, they were just finding a good excuse for them to change sides. At that time, Yu Tiancheng's strength was tyrannical, and they suffered heavy losses in the southern region's spiritual energy turbulence. They just didn't want to risk their lives to fight against Yu Tianqing. So they found an excuse to change sides. At this time they were regretting so much that their intestines turned green. Yu Huang's eyes were cold as he looked at these people. His demonic face was filled with a chilling aura. You can all commit suicide. Being forced by Yu Tianqing for the sake of his own life, he could only rely on the other party. This didn't matter. However, following the other party to hunt him down was an unforgivable sin. Since they wanted to kill her like Yu Tianqing, then he wouldn't be courteous to them. Hearing this, the hearts of the people from the imperial sect turned to ashes. They looked at Yu Huang's resolute and cold expression, and finally had no choice but to commit suicide. After tidying up a group of people who came to kill him, Yu Huang coldly snorted and looked at Yi Qianxian, who was beside Luo Qingtong. He automatically ignored him and said to Luo Qingtong, "Tong, thank you for saving me." Before he could finish his sentence, an attack suddenly blasted towards him with a bang. Yu Huang's figure suddenly flashed to the side. On his devilishly charming and enchanting face, Before the charming smile could even be seen, he was cursing and gnashing his teeth. Xianxia, you lunatic, what are you doing? Why don't you try calling her Tong Tong again? Xianxia's eyes were cold. When he wasn't by Luo Qingtong's side, this was how this man called her. Xianxia felt that there was a ball of anger in his heart, burning fiercely. *CK. Yu Huang wanted to fight him with his life. Chapter 1768. He raised his hand and pointed at Yi Qianren, his face filled with sadness. To think that I, the king of the southern mountain range, because I don't have the strength, was despised. Yu Huang gritted his teeth. Yi Qianxian, you better remember this. Wait until I recover my strength. Tong Tong. All right. Luo Qingtong looked at him, her lips twitching. This world owes him an award. This performance was so good that it was both singing and acting. Luo Qingtong finally knew where Yu Xingqi's black-bellied demonic girl personality came from. Were they really not biological siblings? However, Yu Huang's strength was not as strong as when he saved her in the Saint King's tomb. Luo Qingtong raised her hand and pulled Yi Qianxian's sleeve, stopping him from releasing his aura. Qianren. Yi Qianxian snorted but did not make a move. He looked at Yu Huang with cold eyes. He did not know how this man had the face to say that. Where was his face as the king of the southern mountain range? Yu Huang also coldly snorted and confronted him. The king of the southern mountain range's face? When this guy bullied someone like him who did not have the strength, did he not have the face of the Blackfield's underworld? He still had the nerve to look down on him. The two people's eyes collided in midair, almost making a solid crackling sound. When Bei Qing, Feng Yu and the others sensed the situation and rushed over, this was the horrifying scene they saw. Their master and the king of the southern mountain range were facing each other, but they did not fight. Everyone was indescribably shocked. Especially Bei Qing and Feng Yu, they looked at their master with indescribable wonder and shock. With their master's personality, it was a miracle that he did not attack the king of the southern mountain range. They originally thought that after Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian saved the Yu siblings, Yi Qianxian and Yu Huang would fight. After all, the king of the southern region had a personality that was hard to explain. Furthermore, he obviously coveted the evil doctor. They had originally thought that Yi Qianxian would not be able to tolerate it. Who would have thought that, master? He actually didn't make a move. While everyone was thinking, Yu Huang was already looking at them with an unhappy face. What are you looking at? Haven't you seen a handsome man like me? Yu Huang was very unhappy with Yi Qianxian's underlings, especially Bei Qing and Feng Yu. It was these two people who had told their subordinates that Luo Qingtong liked that vulgar and flamboyant dancer style. He had been thoroughly despised by Luo Qingtong in the far west wilderness. Not only that, but he was also treated as a sissy and had to pretend to be a woman for a long time. It was all because of these two people. Otherwise, he might have a chance to win Luo Qingtong's heart. How would Yi Qianxian have the chance to show off in front of him? Yu Huang's heart was filled with anger as he thought about it. As for Bei Qing, Feng Yu and the others, their faces twitched when they heard his words. No, Bei Qing was a careless and straightforward boy. The moment he heard Yu Huang's words, he subconsciously replied, "My master is much more handsome than you." Before he could finish his words, Feng Yu, who was beside him, covered his mouth. The latter's lips twitched. "Oh my Bei Qing, the silly dog. Master hates it when people talk about his appearance, don't you?" He actually dared to hit the muzzle of the gun. Feng Yu wanted to apologize together with Bei Qing. Chapter 1769. Their master wasn't angry at all. The two of them looked like they were struck by lightning as they looked at Yi Qianming's slightly curved lips under the mask. Their master's mood seemed to be quite good. Yi Qianming was indeed in a good mood. He looked at Yu Huang's dark expression and for the first time he felt that Bei Qing's mouth was not bad. He was in a good mood, but Yu Huang was in a bad mood. He pointed at Bei Qing and the others and was speechless for a long time. Damn it, these people were really Yi Qianming's subordinates. They were really hateful and annoying. The veins on his forehead popped. If it wasn't for Yu Xingqi holding him back, he would have rushed up again. Luo Qingtong's lips twitched as she watched them bicker. Seeing that the two sides were about to clash again, she quickly held her forehead and changed the topic. "All right, let's go back first. Yu Huang." She looked at the evil man opposite her. "The matter of your imperial sect is still waiting for you to go back and deal with it." We didn't touch any of those who betrayed you. Hearing this, Yu Huang's expression changed slightly. He didn't expect Luo Qingtong to be so considerate. She actually kept all those people waiting for him to go back and deal with them. Right. He nodded at Luo Qingtong with a cold expression. Let's go. Thinking of the matter of the imperial sect, Yu Huang didn't have time to argue with Yi Qianming. He still had a lot of confidence outside. These people couldn't rush back to the imperial sect because of the chaos in the southern mountain range. Once those traitors in the imperial sect confirmed his death, they would definitely make a move on them. He had to hurry back and clean up the imperial sect. Those who rebelled behind Yu Tianqing and wanted to kill him, he wouldn't let a single one of them go. Yu Huang's eyes were cold. He turned around and prepared to leave with Luo Qingtong and the others. However, at this moment, boom. Behind them, there was a huge pit on the cliff and a powerful aura of heaven and earth suddenly erupted. The aura was very powerful. Then countless black fog gushed out from it. In the next second, with a bang, an incomparably huge tentacle swept out from within and attacked Xianxia, who was closest to the cliff. The latter was scolding the little white cat in her arms as she walked. "Do you gluttonous ghost, if you are so greedy next time, I will punish you severely. I'll make you into a cat meat hot pot. Let's see how you'll eat then." As Xianxia spoke, he twisted the little white cat's ear. The latter meowed as if it was repenting or trying to explain something. While the human and cat were talking, the tentacle had already attacked her from behind. Yu Huang heard the commotion and turned his head. Seeing this scene, his eyes shrunk in an instant. He fiercely pounced on Xianxia and with a bang he pushed her away. "Brother!" Xianxia's figure and the little white cat heavily fell to the ground together. She raised her head and saw that Yu Huang was wrapped around by that huge tentacle and then pulled into the cliff. She immediately cried out anxiously. She climbed up and hurriedly chased forward. At this moment, an extremely fierce and tyrannical attack passed by her and chased after that tentacle. Chapter 1770. Bang! At the bottom of the cliff, the sound of a violent collision could be heard. In the next second, an extremely miserable and sharp voice came from the bottom of the cliff. "Let's go." Yi Qianxian's eyes were cold as he and Luo Qingtong rushed towards the cliff in an instant. Bei Qing, Feng Yu and the others followed closely behind with Xianxia and the little white cat. The latter sat on the little white cat that had grown bigger again with a pale face. "Brother!" Xianxia hated herself for being so careless just now and not paying attention to the movements behind her. Otherwise, if she had dodged the moment the accident happened, her brother wouldn't have gotten into trouble because of saving her. One had to know that Yu Huang was still injured and couldn't use his strength. Thinking of this, Xianxia's little face became even paler. The two-faced little witch who was usually fearless was so scared that tears were about to come out. Swoosh! Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian were very fast. In just an instant they appeared at the bottom of the cliff. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth here was very violent. The lower they went, the more violent the fluctuations of the aura became. Wave after wave of spiritual energy of heaven and earth intertwined into a ball, forming huge vortexes at the bottom of the cliff. The fluctuations of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth that were emitted were as sharp as knives. If someone who wasn't strong enough got close, they would be cut into pieces by these violent auras. The huge changes in the southern region came from this. The formation of these spiritual energy balls didn't have any pattern. They gathered and scattered, making it impossible to guard against. However, the spiritual energy outside had already calmed down. Those spiritual energy balls were also gradually disappearing. She didn't expect that there would be so many at the bottom of the cliff. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. The bloody light in her eyes flickered violently as she constantly scanned the bottom of the cliff. Soon she found the traces of Yu Huang and the tentacle from the constantly stirring spiritual energy of heaven and earth. "Qianren, over there." Luo Qingtong suddenly raised her hand and pointed to the left. Boom! Yi Qianxian leaped up and headed in the direction she had mentioned. The incomparably terrifying and rioting spiritual qi in the surroundings was no obstacle to him at all. Bang bang bang! Yi Qianxian didn't even need to wait for Luo Qingtong's warning. He directly rushed to the place that Luo Qingtong had mentioned. Along the way, Yi Qianxian's body couldn't even touch the terrifying spiritual energy balls that were constantly stirring and colliding with each other. They were shattered by the aura that lingered around his body. Bang! The moment Yi Qianren's figure appeared, the giant tentacles that were dancing in the air attacked him violently. The gigantic tentacles that filled the sky intersected like a net. Their killing intent was biting cold, and they covered the sky and earth. Boom! Yi Qianxian didn't even look at the tentacles. The aura around him shook violently in an instant. In an instant, a terrifying aura that was as vast as the arrival of the sun and the moon, and the collapse of heaven and earth, swept out from his body. In an instant, those huge tentacles that were violently attacking him were shattered into powder. When Yi Qianxian made his move, Luo Qingtong's life and death sword also appeared in her hand. Bloody cross slash. As she shouted, a bloody cross sword light swept out in an instant and blasted the back of the tentacles that were blocking the sky and earth. Chapter 1771. Cough, cough, cough. Yu Huang coughed violently and was picked out by Luo Qingtong's sword from that thing. His whole body was covered in that kind of green mucus, mixed with blood and a fishy smell, making him want to vomit. What the hell is this? He looked at the huge monster below him that was screaming miserably. It was indeed a monster. Its body was like a mountain, and its fluffy hair almost covered its whole body. It looked like a tiger or a leopard, but its whole body was covered with octopus-like tentacles. Those tentacles were not covered with smooth skin but full of scales. They looked as hard as iron and indestructible. However, at this moment, under Yi Qianxian's attack, these tentacles were constantly being cut and eliminated without any resistance. Boom! When Yu Huang's figure was picked out by Luo Qingtong's sword, Yi Qianxian's attack also swept out in an instant. Boom! Like the moon in the sky, like a dragon roaming on the earth. The man's aura became extremely terrifying in an instant. And that ray of light that flew out from his sleeve also instantly killed that huge monster. Rumble! That monster's body was shattered in an instant. Countless blood rain fluttered, directly agitating the surrounding spiritual energy and violently colliding with each other. It made a deafening sound mixed with the miserable scream of that monster before its death, unceasingly reverberated in this space at the bottom of the cliff. Brother! At this time Bei Qing and others arrived. Yu Xingqi, who was being carried by them, saw the intact Yu Huang standing beside Luo Qingtong and immediately cried and rushed over. "Okay, I won't die, don't cry. Are you crying at a funeral?" It was very rare to see Yu Xingqi crying like this. Yu Huang felt uncomfortable and couldn't help but retort. He still liked to see this little witch's fearless appearance. "Bah, who's crying at a funeral? The wind and sand entered my eyes." Yu Xingqi spat at him with red eyes, his teeth itching. This stupid brother just couldn't treat him well. He deserved to be beaten to death. "Do you think I'll be sad if you die? I will set off 180 strings of firecrackers to celebrate. You're dead. Yu Tianqing is also dead. I can inherit the imperial sect and become the queen of the southern region." "Hey, that's too much." Yu Huang glared at her. "Even if I die, it won't be your turn to be the queen of the southern region." "Who said I can't? I have an older sister." Yu Xingqi put his hands on his waist and said to him, "Hurry up and find another monster to eat you. Otherwise, I'll have to wait for you to die." A woman's heart is the most poisonous. Yu Xingqi, be careful that you won't be able to get married in the future. Just as Yu Huang was speaking, Yu Xingqi directly turned around and said to Luo Qingtong, "Sister, he's cursing you." "What the F***, CK? Yu Huang looked at Yu Xingqi's white and tender finger pointing at him. That firm and unwavering finger, he cursed in his heart. "This little witch, she's ruthless." While the two siblings were arguing with each other, Luo Qingtong found something inside the monster's body. "What is this?" She looked at the silver-white object among the flesh and blood. She raised her hand and took it into her hand. Chapter 1772. Luo Qingtong looked at the grain-sized silver-white crystal, feeling very strange. The appearance of the crystal was very beautiful. Although the hexagonal shape was very irregular, it was crystal clear. In this dusky space at the bottom of the cliff, it was very conspicuous. If a metaphor had to be used to describe it, it would be like a diamond. In Luo Qingtong's hand, it shined with a faint light. The crystal contained an extremely powerful strength. Luo Qingtong carefully felt it and found that it was vaguely similar to the strength emitted from the monster's body. Was this the power crystal condensed from the monster's body? Luo Qingtong knew that there were some powerful and special monster beasts that would condense a kind of power crystal within their body. This was the source of their strength, and it was also a very nutritious thing. After a cultivator obtained it, they would be able to enhance their strength for a short period of time, allowing their strength to increase. After all, these power crystals were the essence of the monster beast's strength that had been accumulated over countless years. Although its effect was inferior to that of the Saint Realm Flower or the Wood Spirit Heart that Luo Qingtong had obtained before, it was enough to allow a cultivator to obtain a great increase in their strength. For someone like Yu Si Huang, who had used a forbidden technique to stimulate his potential and temporarily lost his strength, with the help of these power crystals, he would be able to recover as soon as possible. These power crystals could help a cultivator repair their damaged dantian and the source of their strength. But such power crystals were very rare. Out of 100,000 monster beasts, there might not even be one that could condense. This was something that depended on one's luck. And a monster beast that could condense this kind of power crystal was far more tyrannical than an ordinary monster beast. Luo Qingtong looked at the silver-white crystal in her hand. She didn't know whether this was the power crystal or not. Moreover, the strength of the monster just now was also very strange. It was actually at the Saint Master Realm. It had to be known that there were monster beasts at the Saint Realm and above in the True Spill continent. But almost all of them were concentrated in the far western wilderness. That was the monster beast's paradise. But even in the far western wilderness, there weren't many monster beasts at the Saint Realm and above. The demonic beasts and sea monsters in the other 3 domains were already very powerful if they could surpass the Saint Realm. There were almost no demonic beasts above the Saint Realm. Not to mention the size of the monster just now. Among demonic beasts, the larger their body size, the harder it was to increase their strength. Because it required too much power. Of course, at the same level of strength, the bigger the body, the more powerful it was. This monster's body was so large, yet it actually reached the sacred expert level, moreover condensing this type of extremely rare power crystal within its body. It was strange no matter how one looked at it. Was there really such a coincidence in this world? Furthermore, at the bottom of the cliff, it was obvious that the spiritual qi of heaven and earth was extremely violent. If Luo Qingtong didn't guess wrong, this might have something to do with the spiritual qi riot in the southern territory. The appearance of this monster was probably not a coincidence. Luo Qingtong was lost in thought when suddenly, meow. Chapter 1773. Dudu. Seeing the little white cat swallow the crystal in Luo Qingtong's hand, Xianxia wanted to hit it in an instant. This gluttonous guy, when will it be able to get rid of this bad habit? She raised her hand and was about to twist its ear. You quickly spit out the thing, that's big sister's. Otherwise I'll hit you. While she was talking, Luo Qingtong's eyes suddenly changed. Through her eye technique, she discovered that the little white cat's body had undergone a very shocking change. Stop her. Luo Qingtong's voice sounded. At the same time, the sword in her hand swept out in an instant, slashing towards the little white cat in front of her. Big sister. Seeing this scene, Xianxia's face turned pale. Although Dudu was a glutton, it was her very important companion. When Xianxia was young, she experienced danger several times. It was Dudu who accompanied her and saved her. Not only that, it was the only thing her parents gave her. Big sister, don't. Just when Xianxia was struggling desperately to rush over, roar. An extremely violent voice that contained countless violent emotions and murderous aura rang out. Then, in front of everyone, the little white cat that swallowed the crystal in Luo Qingtong's hand grew bigger in an instant. In an instant, its body size returned to its previous appearance when it was carrying Xianxia and Yu Si Huang, and then it continued to grow bigger. Its limbs began to grow irregularly. Bang bang bang. Amidst its sharp and mournful screams, its body swelled violently, and then wounds began to burst out from all parts of its body. Then grotesquely shaped things that looked like crab's pincers grew out of its body. In just an instant, the little white cat turned into something similar to the monster from before. The aura around its body continued to grow stronger. At the same time, the mournful roar in its mouth became sharper and sharper. Obviously, this change was very painful for him. Not only that, but after the little white cat transformed, its fur and pincers attacked Luo Qingtong and the others. Its eyes were blood red, and it was obvious that it was unable to control itself. Dudu. Seeing this scene, Xianxia finally understood why Luo Qingtong wanted to stop her and why she wanted to attack the little white cat. Bang! The sword light in Luo Qingtong's hand struck the little white cat. In an instant, the monster-like little white cat was blasted away by her. Boom boom boom. The white cat's body flipped a few times in midair. Before it could stand up, Luo Qingtong's voice sounded again. Qianren, restrain it. The little white cat was Xianxia's pet. Luo Qingtong naturally wouldn't kill it like how she dealt with the monster before. In fact, if it weren't for Luo Qingtong deliberately holding back her strength, the little white cat would have been killed by her sword just now. After all, with Luo Qingtong's true strength at this moment, the little white cat who had just improved its strength was not her opponent at all. Even the monster from before, if Yi Qianming didn't make a move, Luo Qingtong could deal with it alone. Swish! Yi Qianxian waved his sleeve and restrained the little white cat. Chapter 1774. There a silver-white crystal was constantly rotating, emitting waves of power. Those waves of power merged into the little white cat's body, turning it into its current state. It turned out that the monster from before also became like this. Luo Qingtong thought so. The life and death yin-yang sword in her hand instantly swept out and stabbed the silver-white crystal, picking it out with a bang. Roar! After the crystal was picked out of its body, the little white cat immediately fell to the ground. Its body size rapidly shrank and soon it returned to the size of a palm. Meow! It raised its head weakly and called out to Xianxia. When the latter returned to its normal size, he had already covered his mouth and rushed up with tears in his eyes. Seeing it like this, he immediately raised his hand and slapped it fiercely. Bastard! I told you long ago not to be so greedy. But you didn't listen. Look at you now. You almost ate yourself to death, didn't you? As Xianxia said this, he cried and fell in front of the little white cat, hugging it tightly. You stinky dog, you scared me to death. You scared me to death. Xianxia cried sadly, but Luo Qingtong had already taken the silver-white crystal in her hand. Compared to before, this silver-white crystal had shrunk a lot. Obviously, the reduced size was transformed into energy that was absorbed by the little white cat. That was why it turned into that monster-like appearance just now. Luo Qingtong walked in front of the little white cat. The latter was gently licking Xianxia and comforting him. Sensing Luo Qingtong's approach, or rather sensing the aura of the crystal, it suddenly raised its head and stared at the silver-white crystal in Luo Qingtong's hand. It could be seen that if it wasn't for the fact that it was injured and couldn't move, it would have jumped up and rushed towards the silver-white crystal again. You're still looking. Haven't you suffered enough just now? Xianxia looked at its appearance and instantly became angry. He raised his hand and twisted its ear. However, even if it was being pulled by Luo Qingtong until it meowed, the little white cat's gaze was still unable to move away from Luo Qingtong's hands. It had just gone through a painful torture, so it was impossible for it not to know the dangers of this crystal. The only explanation was that it couldn't resist the temptation of the crystal. This thing is very attractive to it. Yu Huang came to Luo Qingtong's side at this time. He looked at the silver-white crystal in Luo Qingtong's hand with a grave expression. What exactly was this crystal? To actually be able to turn a demonic beast into such a state. However, the power contained within it was indeed astonishing. If it wasn't for the fact that the consequence of consuming these powers was to turn into a monster and lose their rationality, this was definitely a good thing, a great tonic. Could the spiritual qi of heaven and earth in the southern region be related to this crystal? Luo Qingtong's thoughts were similar to his. She looked at the crystal in her hand. Under the light of her pupil technique, the power of this crystal showed a dark gray color. It was unknown how many impurities were entangled in it, making the power of this crystal look very turbid. Otherwise, by relying on the power of this crystal, her strength could increase again. Chapter 1775. With that in mind, Luo Qingtong prepared to put the crystal away. She would study how to remove these impurities when she returned to the imperial city. However, just as her hand touched her useless ring, with a swoosh, a small leaf rolled out and wrapped around the crystal in her hand. Luo Qingtong was shocked. She looked down at the small leaf. It was clearly the leaf of the ancient heavenly spirit tree. While she was still in shock, she saw the leaf of the ancient heavenly spirit tree wrap around the crystal and instantly, Streaks of silver-gray aura were sucked out of the crystal and swept into the ancient heavenly spirit tree's young leaf. Swoosh! The ancient heavenly spirit tree's leaf became even more verdant. After absorbing the silver-gray aura, the entire leaf seemed to be extremely nourished and watered. As the ancient heavenly spirit tree absorbed the aura, the crystal's silver-white luster instantly receded. The entire crystal became crystal clear in an instant. It looked like an extremely beautiful glass bead. An extremely dense energy that made people feel relaxed and happy was being emitted from it. This power was different from the one Luo Qingtong felt from the crystal. It seemed to have been completely reborn. Smack! The crystal fell back into Luo Qingtong's hand. The leaf of the ancient heavenly spirit tree had already retreated after absorbing the silver-gray aura. Has it been purified? Luo Qingtong looked at the crystal in her hand in surprise. The latter's appearance and aura were completely different from before. At this moment, a hand reached out from beside her and took the crystal. The power inside can be absorbed now. Xianxia's aura circled around the crystal. Then he handed it back to Luo Qingtong. The power inside is very suitable for experts above the Saint Realm to absorb. I'm afraid this crystal is not an ordinary item. Yi Qianren could feel an extremely pure aura of power within it. He didn't pay much attention to this aura before it was contaminated by the impurities. Now that the impurities were removed, he immediately sensed the difference. This was not the ordinary spiritual aura of heaven and earth, but the higher level of immortal spiritual aura. It was only found in the outer realm. It was the main spiritual aura for experts above the venerable realm to cultivate. At their level, ordinary spiritual aura of heaven and earth could no longer satisfy their cultivation needs. They had to absorb immortal spiritual aura. However, ordinary immortal spiritual aura could not be absorbed by experts below the venerable realm. Unless the other party's continent was very high level and had immortal spiritual aura itself. In this way, cultivators below that level would be able to absorb the immortal qi and rapidly increase their strength. The true spill continent where Luo Qingtong was located was a low-level continent. Had no immortal spiritual aura at all. Even if Yi Qianxian gave her immortal spiritual aura, she would not be able to absorb it. But now, the immortal spiritual aura in this crystal carried the aura of the true spill continent. Could be absorbed by Luo Qingtong. This was strange. As Yi Qianxian was thinking, Yu Sihuang's voice suddenly sounded. Chapter 1776. Immortal Jade Bone. It's an immortal jade bone. Immortal jade bone? What's that? Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows and looked at him. Immortal jade bone is the condensation of the aura essence of the fallen immortal land in the hidden world. Yu Sihuang was afraid that Luo Qingtong didn't know about the fallen immortal land, so he immediately explained, "It is said that there was a great war in the true spill continent in the hidden world. I don't know the specific reason, but at that time, many powerhouses from outside the domain joined in. After they died, their aura condensed and did not dissipate, forming a very special place in the hidden world. That is the fallen immortal land. There are many good things inside, but at the same time, it is also very dangerous. The aura inside has a corrosive effect on people and beasts. If you stay there for a long time, you will become a walking corpse and finally die inside. The only thing that can counteract this aura is the immortal jade bone condensed from the essence of their aura." Yu Sihuang looked at the transparent crystal in Luo Qingtong's hand as he spoke. No wonder the spiritual energy of the southern domain is so violent. It should be because of the appearance of this immortal jade bone. In the hidden world, the fallen immortal land's aura will fluctuate violently every year. At that time, immortal jade bones will be thrown out and scattered all over the hidden world. If you obtain these immortal jade bones, you will be able to enter the fallen immortal land and explore when its aura is weak. I didn't expect that the fallen immortal land's eruption would cause these immortal jade bones to appear in the southern domain. It's strange. Yu Sihuang didn't think of the immortal jade bones before. After all, the immortal jade bones had always erupted in the hidden world and had never appeared in other places. He had only heard of the immortal jade bones, but he had never seen them before. The reason why he thought of the immortal jade bones was because Yi Qianxian said that the power inside was very suitable for Sage Realm powerhouses to absorb. Such a thing, in addition to the spiritual energy of the southern domain before, made Yu Sihuang think of the immortal jade bones. So that's how it is. Luo Qingtong's eyes lit up. No wonder the ancient heavenly spirit could purify this crystal. If the other party had immortal jade bones, then it wouldn't be surprising. After all, the ancient heavenly spirit fed on Yin souls and death aura. The silver-gray aura that was absorbed from the crystal was the immortal jade bones of the powerhouses who died in the fallen immortal land, right? It condensed together, it formed a thing that was tightly connected with the essence of those aura. Once it was absorbed into the body's body, it would immediately be controlled by the remnant soul's resentment, causing one would lose their sanity. Not only that, but if a large amount of death energy and resentment entered the body, it would also mutate a person into a monster-like existence. Luo Qingtong immediately knew what was going on between the white cat and that monster. However, the death qi was completely absorbed by the ancient heavenly spiritual wood. As Luo Qingtong thought about it, her lips curled up. Immortal jade bones. This was a good thing. Not only would Luo Qingtong not have to worry about going to the fallen immortal land in the future, but she could also use the power inside to improve herself. Moreover, the ancient heavenly spirit could also grow greatly. After all, that was a primordial divine tree. Chapter 1777. Let's go, let's look around and see if there are any other immortal jade bones. Luo Qingtong said as she walked outside. As it turned out, there were many more. Luo Qingtong, Xianxia, and the others strolled around the bottom of the cliff and found that this was a huge pit. The space of the cliff was very large, it was unknown how many li it spanned. The group walked around for a while and killed several monsters that had mutated because they swallowed the immortal jade bones. Most of these monsters were at the Saint Realm and Saint Realm, none of them were lower than the Saint Realm. After Luo Qingtong killed them, she took out the immortal jade bones from their bodies and found that the quality of these immortal jade bones was different. The stronger the monster, the higher the quality of the immortal jade bones. These immortal jade bones were extremely tempting to monsters. Almost every time an immortal jade bone came out, Xianxia desperately hugged the fluttering little white cat in his arms to prevent it from recklessly rushing towards the immortal jade bones. Every time Luo Qingtong obtained an immortal jade bone, she would let the ancient heavenly spirit absorb the death energy and resentment within. After absorbing these, the color of the ancient heavenly spirit become more verdant and its figure became more tall and straight. After Luo Qingtong let it absorb the death energy of several immortal jade bones, she found that it quietly grew a little taller. At the same time, on the branch a small green dot protruded. It was obvious that another leaf was about to grow. Seeing this, Luo Qingtong was very happy. The leaves of this ancient heavenly spirit were very useful to her. Being able to activate the soul seal talent, this was simply too great. Luo Qingtong naturally wanted it to grow more leaves. And Yu Huang also recovered his strength from the immortal jade bones after a series of kills by Luo Qingtong. After all, the aura of this immortal jade bone was a higher level of immortal spiritual energy. It could completely heal the injuries caused by the stimulation of his body before. Not only that, it also healed some of the hidden dangers in his body. Tong, let's go back to Imperial City first? He suggested. The space at the bottom of the cliff is very large, we can't explore it in a short time. If I'm not wrong, this should be the source of the spiritual energy turbulence in the southern region. It's also the place where the immortal jade bones erupted and scattered. Let's go back to Imperial City first, I'll settle the matter of the Imperial sect. When the time comes, send people to surround this place. We can't let these monsters run out. The space at the bottom of the cliff was not sealed. Once those monsters who ate the immortal jade bones ran out, it would be difficult to find them. Furthermore, Yu Huang was also worried about the Imperial sect. Luo Qingtong nodded. She wanted to search the bottom of the cliff was the number of the immortal jade bones. From the looks of it, she was still very satisfied. The immortals is very clearly. The quality of the immortal jade bones here was too low for her. That was indeed the case. The monsters that would wander around the edge of the cliff were all relatively weak. The powerful monsters were all in the center, fighting each other to seize the immortal jade bones in their bodies. Only those who were too weak would go to the edge to avoid those powerful monsters. We'll go back first. Chapter 1778. She would first settle the matter of the Imperial sect before continuing to explore the space at the bottom of the cliff. Moreover, even though her strength hadn't improved completely, She'd improved from a beginner saint to a low-level saint. Luo Qingtong was prepared to go back and consolidate her strength. Moreover, Yu Xihuang's words were reasonable. The space at the bottom of the cliff must be surrounded to prevent those monsters from escaping and wasting those immortal jade bones. One must know that one could never have too many of these things. Luo Qingtong could not use the immortal jade bones outside, but she could give them to the people around her. Old Man Luo, Empress Dowager Yanxi, Suyu, Su Xiaoxiao Xianxia and the others, which one of them did not need to increase their strength. Not to mention, the immortal jade bones were extremely beneficial to the growth of the ancient heavenly spiritual wood. Luo Qingtong could not let go of this opportunity. Using the people of the imperial sect to surround this place would not attract attention. After all, this was their territory. They just needed to make up an excuse. If Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian were to transfer people here, it would attract attention. This immortal jade bone was something that many people coveted in the hidden world. Luo Qingtong did not want to complicate matters. Swish. The group of people rushed out of the cliff and headed towards the imperial sect. In the imperial sect, a group of people were hung up high. Wu Tianyun, you betrayed the sect master. You will die a horrible death. Luo Li was hung at the front. He looked at the people who betrayed Yu Xihuang in front of him with resentment. When he received the news of the incident at the imperial sect, he immediately rushed back from outside. However, he did not expect that the people of the imperial sect betrayed Yu Xihuang and turned to Yu Tianqing. When Luo Li and the others came back, they were surrounded and captured. Not only that, they also found out from the mouths of these people that Yu Xihuang and Yu Xingqi were chased by Yu Tianqing. They were most likely dead. When everyone thought of this, they suddenly felt a burst of sorrow. They cursed at Wu Tianyun and the others. These people were all promoted by Yu Xihuang. To be able to have his current strength and status, it was all because of Yu Xihuang. In the end, the latter was heavily injured and temporarily lost his strength. Coincidentally, the southern region was in turmoil and Yu Tianqing made things difficult for them. Thus, they completely sold Yu Xihuang out. Truly cruel and unscrupulous, worse than pigs and dogs. Humph, die a horrible death? Are you talking about yourselves and Yu Xihuang? Don't worry, he is indeed going to die a horrible death. And you guys, too. Wu Tianyun and the others sneered. They didn't care about Luo Li's words at all. Yu Xihuang was chased away by Yu Tianqing, he definitely wouldn't survive. Who is going to make them die a horrible death? Are they? What a joke. Haha. Wu Tianyun and the others burst into laughter as they thought of this. Don't worry, we'll send you to him soon. Their faces were gloomy. When the time comes, remember to send our greetings to the sect leader. Ask him if he was comfortable down there and if he died miserably. Haha. The crowd laughed even louder as they spoke. Just as Luo Li and the rest were enraged and struggling with all their might, a cold voice rang out. Why don't you ask me yourself? As this voice rang out, the laughter of Wu Tianyun and the others seemed to have been paused. They turned their heads around mechanically. Chapter 1779. Their expression was as if they were in a dream. Luo Li and the others also looked at the direction where the voice came from with excitement. Sect Master. At the entrance of Imperial Sect, Yu Xihuang was wearing a purple robe. His devilish face was filled with a murderous aura. He raised his hand and stroked the mole at the corner of his eye. Looking at the shocked Wu Tianyun and the others, he was as charming as a demon. Not bad, you still miss me so much. Indeed, I have trained you for so long. Yu Xihuang said as he smiled towards them. That extremely enchanting face was even more soul-stirring. However, I am unable to answer your 2 questions. How about this, I will send you down to see Yu Tianqing. Maybe he can answer you, Impossible. Wu Tianyun and the others looked at Yu Xihuang's direction in panic. How is this possible? Yu Xihuang did not die. But soon they calmed down again. Sect Master, I never thought you could escape from Yu Tianqing's hands. Must have been very hard, right? The group sneered at the wounds on Yu Xihuang's body and the damage on his clothes. Naturally, these were the wounds that the latter accidentally touched when he was killing those monsters. Because they were not serious, he was too lazy to deal with them. At this moment, these wounds and the damage on his clothes were taken by Wu Tianyun and the others as the evidence of Yu Xihuang escaping from Yu Tianqing's hands. They immediately calmed down. Sect Master, the feeling of being chased is not good, right? The group had a mocking smile on their faces. Without strength, so what if Yu Huang escaped from Yu Tiancheng's hands? He still wanted to send them to see Yu Tiancheng. What a joke. Send them with what? With his mouth? Did Yu Huang think that he was still the imperial sect master, that everyone would follow his words? The group had a mocking expression on their faces. But sect master, it's good that you are back. We are about to send Luo Li and the others on their way. Let's send you up too. As they spoke, they waved their hands. Men, come and catch him. Looking at those people rushing over, before Yu Huang could say anything, a burst of laughter suddenly came from behind him. Huh. Stupid brother, you still want to act cool. Now you've embarrassed yourself, haven't you? While speaking, Xianxia came out from behind him with the little white cat in his arms. He made a funny face at him, then laughed so hard that his stomach hurt. Yeah. Yu Huang's demonic smile did not change, but the words coming out of his mouth were abnormally cold. Had I known earlier, I would have made a move straight away. Bang. As he spoke, he raised his hand and twisted off the head of the imperial family's disciple who was the first to reach him. Then he stood up and rushed towards Wu Tianyun and the others. The latter and the others were horrified to the extreme. Yu Huang's strength has recovered. His strength had actually recovered. Everyone turned around and tried to escape. However, in front of Yu Huang, who had completely recovered his strength, how could they escape? In just an instant they were all wiped out. Everyone's eyes were wide open. Even before they died, they still didn't know what was going on. And just as they were about to take their last breaths, suddenly a panicked voice came from outside. Chapter 1780. Haha. Hearing this, Wu Tianyun held on to his last breath and laughed loudly. Besieged by the sects of the 3 islands and 7 earths. Must be. Yu Huang, you're finished. He looked at Yu Huang's direction with a ferocious expression. His words were filled with joy and pride. Pa, so what if you kill us? The imperial sect's strength has been greatly reduced. Now that we're dead, the imperial sect is no different from an empty shell. Ha! How can you reverse the situation by yourself? The imperial sect will be destroyed. Yu Huang, you'll be buried with us. Ha! His voice was proud and sharp, as if he could already see Yu Huang and the others dying without a burial place. After all, the other party was the sect master of the imperial sect and was the most hated person by the sects of the 3 islands and 7 earths. Ha! His laughter was unusually sharp and ear-piercing. At this moment, a chuckling voice sounded. Really? How about we join in? Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent as she appeared with Yi Qianming and the others. This group of people had arrived with Yu Huang long ago. But the latter said that he wanted to solve this matter by himself, so they hid and watched the show. They didn't expect to see such a big show. I didn't expect you to have such a master and servant relationship. Luo Qingtong smiled at Yu Huang and said, I didn't expect you to be buried with them. How about it? Do you need us to collect your corpse? When she said this, Xianxia burst out laughing. Yi Qianming and the others also had a faint smile on their faces. Especially Yi Qianming. He gently held Luo Qingtong's hand. He was very happy to see Yu Huang suffer this time. Who asked him to act cool? As for Yu Huang, his entire face turned green. His face was filled with grief. Don't stab me in the heart like this. Leave me some face. As for Wu Tianyun and the others, when Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianming appeared, they had already swallowed their breaths in horror. They had already recognized Yi Qianming's identity. The man wore a dark golden robe and a dark golden mask. His aura was like a bottomless abyss. In addition to Yu Huang's groaning sound, how could they not know that the 2 people who had appeared were evil Dr. Ghost Eye and Blackfield Mingzun? With these 2 people here, in addition to the many experts of the Blackfield, how could anything happen to the imperial sect? To think that they were so proud of themselves, thinking that even if Yu Huang killed them they would be buried with them, but now it seems it was just a joke. Everyone swallowed their anger unwillingly. Their hearts were filled with unspeakable regret. If they had known earlier that Yu Huang and the Blackfield Mingzun did not have any enmity, not only that the other party had personally come to rescue him, why would they betray Yu Huang? Indeed, one wrong step and everything would be overturned. Everyone was completely dead. As for Yu Huang, after ordering Luo Li and the others to clean up the imperial gate, he left the imperial city with Luo Qingtong and the others. Outside the imperial city, A group of sects from the 3 islands and 7 lands gathered, preparing to launch an attack. They had received accurate news that there was a rebellion in the Imperial sect and Yu Xihuang's whereabouts were unknown. Not only that, they had also found out that the latter had lost his strength. Everyone was forced to unite because of Yu Xihuang's strength and methods. Chapter 1781. Without Yu Xihuang, what was the Imperial sect to them? Not to mention that the Imperial sect had suffered heavy losses in the spiritual energy riot in the southern region. That was even less of a reason to be afraid. If they weren't afraid of Yu Xihuang's methods, they would have taken action when the Imperial sect suffered heavy losses. Now that the Imperial sect was in chaos, it gave them the best opportunity to take action. It was laughable that Yu Tianqing thought that after killing Yu Xihuang and taking over the Imperial sect, he would be the overlord of the southern region. It was just a joke. People of the Imperial sect, if you immediately open the door and surrender, we might leave you with a complete corpse. Otherwise what? A cold voice sounded at this moment, then a purple figure appeared on the city walls of the Imperial sect. Otherwise we will destroy the entire city, not a single one will be left alive. The person from the 3 islands and 7 lands who spoke did not see the scene on the city walls. When he finished speaking, he saw the purple figure standing on the city walls, almost as if he was floating in the air. When that devilishly charming face entered his eyes, his heart instantly palpitated with fear and trepidation. Yu Xihuang. Why would he appear here? Wasn't he chased out of the Imperial sect by the internal rebellion, and was being chased by Yu Tianqing and the rest? And his strength. The people from the 3 islands and 7 lands looked at the cold aura around Yu Xihuang and their eyelids twitched. What was going on? Didn't they say that he lost all his strength so he was unable to suppress the rebellion in the Imperial sect? However, from the looks of it, his strength did not seem to be damaged at all. Everyone was shocked and Yu Xihuang had already waved his sleeves. The lives of the people of the Imperial sect are here. If you have the ability, then come and take it yourselves. As he spoke, the gates of the Imperial sect opened with a boom, and it was already wide open without any defense. Instantly, the people from the 3 islands and 7 lands were in an uproar. Soon someone shouted loudly. Everyone, don't be fooled by him. Even if Yu Xihuang didn't have anything to do with the rebellion of the Imperial sect, the strength of the Imperial sect is still very weak. Let's not be scared by him. He's definitely bluffing. Let's charge in together. Otherwise, if the people of the Imperial sect recover, the ones who will suffer will be us. As this person spoke, the hearts of the people from the 3 islands and 7 lands trembled. That's right, they had already fought their way here. If they retreated now and waited for Yu Xihuang to restore the Imperial sect, then all of them would not be able to bear the consequences. With that thought in mind, everyone drew their weapons and charged towards the Imperial city. These people. Yu Xihuang looked at the people from the 3 islands and 7 earths who rushed up and clenched his teeth. Were these people in such a hurry to court death? How could they not know his methods? Without a certain degree of certainty, would he dare to open the city gates? Bluff. Bluff your sister. Alright, make your move. He said with a face full of annoyance. If possible, he naturally did not want to owe Yi Qianxian a favor. But at this moment the people of the Imperial sect had just experienced a rebellion. If they were to forcefully attack, who knew how many people would be lost? Chapter 1782. Pfft. His voice sounded. In an instant Yi Qianxian, Luo Qingtong and the others appeared beside him. Luo Qingtong had a smile on her face. She couldn't help it. Yi Qianxian looked at him indifferently. Tong Tong. Before he could finish his words, Yu Xihuang gritted his teeth and spoke. Okay, I won't call you that anymore. Bastard. In order to prevent him from calling him that, this person really didn't let go of any chance. Yu Xihuang was depressed. When he looked at the people from the 3 islands and 7 earths in front of him, his gaze became even more gloomy. It's all because of these guys. He couldn't call Luo Qingtong Tong Tong anymore. Kill them all, don't leave a single one alive. His voice was cold. His action of stroking the mole under his eye was full of murderous intent. These people, he gave them a chance to leave, but they didn't want to leave. Since that was the case, then they should all leave their lives here. Boom. As Yu Xihuang's voice sounded, Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others appeared with the people from the black field behind them. They charged towards the people from the 3 islands and 7 earths. Sounds of attacks sounded one after another. Bei Qing, Feng Yu and the others' auras were like rainbows. This group of people behind Yi Qianxian and Luo Qingtong had extraordinary fighting power. It was almost a face-to-face confrontation. They killed the people from the 3 islands and 7 earths in front of them. In an instant the latter and the others were shocked. Black field. They looked at the neatly dressed people from the black field behind Bei Qing and Feng Yu, and their hearts trembled. The people from the black field actually interfered with the matters of the imperial sect? Not only that, but they also personally dealt with them? Everyone's hearts trembled. At this moment, someone suddenly raised his head and saw Yi Qianxian and Luo Qingtong standing beside Yu Huang. Putting aside the latter for the time being, he immediately saw through the man's identity. Blackfield Mingzun. It's the Blackfield Mingzun. That person's face was filled with shock. He might not know Yi Qianxian, but with the dark golden mask on his face and the strength shown by Bei Qing and Feng Yu, how many people in the Blackfield could order them around? Not to mention that the other party was standing side by side with Yu Huang. He screamed the moment he saw Yi Qianxian. When he saw the man hugging Luo Qingtong tightly, he gasped. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye. It's Blackfield's Mingzun and Evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Knowing the identity of the 2 people on the city wall, the people from the 3 islands and 7 lands didn't even have the slightest thought of resisting. Someone as strong as Mingzun of the Blackfield could cover the sky with one hand. What's more, the Great Yong sacred dynasty was annihilated by him overnight. It could be seen that the Blackfield's strength was tyrannical and terrifying. These people from the 3 islands and 7 lands took advantage of the fact that the imperial sect's strength was greatly damaged and Yu Huang was in trouble, not to mention facing the Blackfield. Everyone fled in panic. However, when they rushed towards the imperial sect, their fate was already sealed. Yu Huang immediately ordered the imperial sect to activate the defensive barrier of the imperial sect, enveloping them within. If the people from the Blackfield weren't here, the defensive barrier wouldn't be of much use. It would only allow the people from the imperial sect to hold on for a while. Chapter 1783. Everyone who wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to kill Yu Huang and destroy the imperial family all let out shrill screams as they rushed to the city gates. Their faces were filled with despair as they were killed by the people of the Blackfield one by one. They couldn't escape even if they wanted to. They had paid a huge price for their ambition and greed. Bang bang bang. Outside the imperial family, the smell of blood filled the air. Luo Qingtong, Yi Qianxian, and Yu Huang had already returned to the imperial family. Tong. Yu Huang had just said this when he saw Yi Qianxian glare at him. Instantly he clenched his teeth. Bastard, this damn man. Qingtong. He said with an unwilling expression. Humph, if you don't want me to call you Tong Tong, can't I call you Qingtong? Although it wasn't as intimate as Tong Tong, thinking of this, Yu Huang's heart felt stifled. Yi Qianxian, this bastard, just you wait. Sooner or later he will return to this level. Qingtong, after I clean up the matters of the imperial family, I will immediately seal off the space at the bottom of the cliff. I will first send someone to investigate how big that place is and whether there are any other places like it in the southern territory. Yu Huang was the master of the imperial family, the overlord of the southern territory. When it came to serious matters, his expression turned solemn. Luo Qingtong nodded. She also had this intention. After all, the southern territory was Yu Huang's territory. Leaving this matter to him was the right choice. The appearance of the immortal jade bone this time was a rare opportunity for them. Luo Qingtong originally wanted to increase her strength before going to the hidden world. However, the spiritual energy in the true Spill continent was barren. Being able to reach the Saint Realm through the heart of 10,000 trees was already the limit. The sudden appearance of the immortal jade bones in the true Spill continent was a good thing for her and the people around her. Through the power of the immortal jade bones, they could improve themselves like the people in the hidden world. They didn't have to worry about the lack of spiritual energy in the true Spill continent. Luo Qingtong sneered as she thought of the Breeze Pavilion's order to cancel the qualifications of Su Xiaoxiao and the others to enter the hidden world. Martial Uncle Zhang thought that this would prevent them from improving their strength. However, even if she didn't go to the hidden world, she could still increase the strength of Ma Chengyi and the others. At that time, whether they could go to the hidden world or not would not be up to the Breeze Pavilion. Yu Huang to the southern territory. With Black. When the time came, they would kill monsters in the outer space of the cliff, temper themselves and enhance their strength. She would purify the power of the immortal jade bones for them. Seeing Luo Qingtong think of him, Yi Qianxian's lips curved up in a smile. He held the slender waist of the girl in his arms and listened to her talk about the next plan with a smile of exultation. In his heart, there was a strange sense of satisfaction that came from a peaceful life. Was this the first time he had been taken care of by someone? Yi Qianxian deeply looked at the young girl in front of him. Ever since he met Luo Qingtong, his life had been broken again and again. The first time he was teased. The first time he was helpless. The first time, there were too many firsts. To be able to meet Luo Qingtong, this was perhaps the greatest accident of his life. And he liked this accident. Chapter 1784. Luo Qi. He suddenly called out. Then under Luo Qingtong's puzzled gaze he kissed her. Between the heavens and the earth, there was only one person. She loved him and she would never let him down. Yu Huang quickly explored the southern domain. Besides the space at the bottom of the cliff, there were many other places where those monsters had appeared. Those places were the places where the spiritual energy in the southern domain had the most violent outbursts. However, the other places weren't large. Only the space at the bottom of the cliff was enormous. The further down they went, the deeper and larger it became. It was as if the entire mountain range and several other mountain ranges had been hollowed out. Obviously, the space at the bottom of the cliff was the source of this outburst of spiritual energy. Moreover, it was the place where the immortal jade bones had fallen the most. Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian stood on the cliff of this space at the bottom of the cliff. The space here has traces of loosening. The man's eyes were deep. Yi Qianxian's eyes narrowed as he looked at the almost endless space at the bottom of the cliff in front of him. He and Bei Qing, Feng Yu and the others had explored the area and found that the space here had loosened. Someone had opened a space here that led to the outside. It was likely because of this that when the aura of the land of the fallen immortals erupted in the hidden world, it followed the traces of the space loosening and erupted in the southern domain. Someone opened this passage that led to the outside? That is to say, someone went through here to go to the outside. Luo Qingtong looked at him with surprise. She knew that Yi Qianxian and the others didn't need to go through the hidden world to enter and exit the outside. In the true Spill continent, how many people could do this? Without knowing why, Luo Qingtong inexplicably thought of the blue smoke in Feng Wan's body. She narrowed her eyes. Could it be the other party? If so, then it could explain why she couldn't find Feng Wan's whereabouts. She was afraid that she had already gone to the outside. Yi Qianxian nodded. The other party should have taken advantage of the eruption of aura from the land of the fallen immortals to forcefully open the passage from True Spill continent to the outer realms. After that it didn't close. The aura of the land of the fallen immortals erupted and spread over here. If it weren't for this, then with the firm barrier between the hidden world and the True Spill continent, there wouldn't have been a situation where the immortal jade bone erupted in the southern domain after the aura of the fallen immortal erupted. Luo Qingtong nodded. If that was the case, then everything made sense. No wonder the celestial jade bone had never erupted outside of the hidden world for so many years. This time, it had suddenly appeared in the southern region. However, this also happened to help him. Luo Qingtong's lips curved slightly. Let's go, Qianren. Let's go down. The group of people flew down the cliff. At the bottom of the cliff, Elder Luo Suyu and Su Xiaoxiao were all there. They had been summoned by Luo Qingtong. After arriving here, they realized that what Luo Qingtong had brought them was a great opportunity. The power contained within the immortal jade bone was extremely pure. Moreover, it was a higher level of immortal spirit energy. After everyone took it, their strength rose steadily. Su Xiaoxiao and the others had already taken the wood spirit heart and their strength had risen to the sage realm. Chapter 1785. However, after that, the increase in their strength slowed down. This was normal. No matter how pure the energy in the immortal jade bone was, it was not an elixir. It was impossible to raise their strength to a high level all of a sudden. They needed to slowly increase their comprehension step by step. The reason why they were able to surpass the sage realm was because their previous level was too low and it was their first time coming into contact with immortal spiritual energy. Everyone was very excited to see Luo Qingtong. They all gathered around her. Qingtong. Boss. Master. Luo Qingtong nodded at them. Then she saw little Overlord Yuan and the others scratching their heads and wanting to call Yi Qianxian. She immediately called them back. This group of idiots should know their place. Grandpa, you guys stay here and increase your strength. Qianren and I will go to the center of the cliff to take a look. The immortal jade bones around them were not enough for Luo Qingtong to increase her strength. He had to go deeper. Since this space was opened by someone, she had to go and seal the space with Yi Qianxian. Otherwise, if this space was left open and the aura of the fallen immortal land continued to pour in, it would cause irreversible consequences. Luo Qingtong did not want the southern region or even the entire True Spill continent to become the next fallen immortal land. Alright, Qingtong, be careful. Grandfather Luo and the others also knew that the formation of the space at the bottom of the cliff was not normal. In the past few days, they had already hunted many monsters that had swallowed the immortal jade bones. They found that not only did their numbers not decrease, they were increasing. Not only that, but their strength was also increasing. Obviously, there was something strange in the depths of this space. Luo Qingtong looked at them and nodded. She purified all the immortal jade bones that Grandfather Luo and the others had hunted and then gave them to them. Then she went to the depths of the space at the bottom of the cliff with Yi Qianming and Yu Huang. After absorbing the death energy in the immortal jade bones, the sapling of the ancient heavenly spirit tree grew even more vigorously. The branches around it stretched out and 4 more leaves appeared on the branches. Luo Qingtong looked at the 4 leaves and was in a very good mood. These 4 leaves represented 4 soul seal talents. Luo Qingtong was not in a hurry to consume them. He wanted to let them grow for a while. This was because Little Pig had told him that plucking too many leaves in the early stages would affect the ancient heavenly spirit tree's growth. This was similar to how a cultivator's foundation would be damaged too much in the early stages, and it would be very difficult for them to improve in the later stages. Luo Qingtong naturally didn't want to affect the growth of the ancient heavenly spiritual wood, so she let the 4 leaves grow there first. When she needed them in the future, she would pluck them. The group plunged into the depths of the space at the bottom of the cliff. The monsters they encountered along the way were much stronger than those in the periphery. Luo Qingtong, Yi Qianming and the others hunted their way over. Because Yu Huang had to take care of the people of the imperial sect and he didn't get along with Yi Qianming, the 2 parted ways halfway. Luo Qingtong, Yi Qianming and the others kept going deeper and deeper. The group plunged towards the center of the space. While Yi Qianming accompanied Luo Qingtong to kill monsters, Bei Qing, Feng Yu and the others spread out, looking for the space that had been torn open. Chapter 1786. Rumble. There was a loud explosion of heaven and earth spiritual energy. A huge spatial crack suddenly appeared in the sky. Then a figure with a majestic aura stepped out from it. Pavilion Master. The middle-aged man in the lead had a powerful aura that almost crossed the sun and moon. That terrifying aura was clearly above the Saint Marquis realm. It already had the fluctuations of a Saint King realm. Obviously, this person's comprehension had reached the Saint King realm. He had crossed the threshold between the Saint Lord realm and the Saint King realm. It was just that the power in his body was not enough, so he had not advanced to the Saint King realm. Even so, he could already display some of the power of a Saint King realm. Once the power in his body was enough, he would immediately advance to the Saint King realm. He hummed in a low voice, his eyes sweeping over the scene around him. Then he looked at the person in front of him and said, "Are you sure that there is a spatial crack in the True Spill continent that can shake it open and leak out the aura of the fallen immortal land?" The Breeze Pavilion Master's eyes narrowed. Opening the passage from the hidden world to the True Spill continent had cost the Breeze Pavilion a lot. The entire sect's heritage was almost gone. If it weren't for the news that Elder Zhang and the others had sent, he would never have mobilized so many people. However, if this news was true, then it was great news for the Breeze Pavilion. It had to be known that in the hidden world the competition for the immortal jade bones was very fierce. For a 6th grade sect like the Breeze Pavilion to stand out and obtain a large number of immortal jade bones was absolutely impossible. However, the secular land of the True Spill continent was different. The people here were not worth mentioning to the Breeze Pavilion. To put it bluntly, if they wanted to slaughter all the powerhouses in this secular land, these people could only wait for death. In such a situation, wouldn't it be easy for them to obtain the immortal jade bones? There would be no interference at all. Yes. The old man who spoke earlier replied. We specially sent Marshal Nephew Zhang and the others to investigate. We are very sure that there is a space crack in the southern territory. If we can shake open that space crack, we will be able to obtain the aura of the land of the fallen immortals. At that time we will be able to obtain a large number of immortal jade bones. The old man said with a certain expression. But soon he frowned again. But Marshal Nephew Zhang and the others disappeared after they sent the message. There hasn't been any reply for so long, so I don't know where they went. Even Yen and the others are missing. After the people of the Cool Breeze Pavilion obtained the news of High Master Zhang, they immediately began to prepare to open the channel to the true Spill continent. They had already left the Cool Breeze Pavilion, so they naturally didn't know that High Master Zhang and Song Yan's life tokens had already shattered. It's fine. Don't worry, Great Elder, the Breeze Pavilion Master said nonchalantly. With Elder Zhang's strength and cultivation, how could there possibly be anyone in true Spill continent capable of doing anything to them? You don't have to worry too much. Marshal Uncle Zhang was severely taught a lesson by Yi Qianming and was then framed by Luo Qingtong. Because he was afraid of being reprimanded by the sect, he did not dare to report this matter. Chapter 1787. The Great Elder nodded in agreement. He wasn't really worried that something would happen to Song Yan and the others. He was just saying it. Just as the Pavilion Master said, how could there be anyone in the true Spill continent who could hurt Elder Zhang, a Saint General? That was simply a joke. After the Breeze Pavilion Master said that, he didn't bother about this matter anymore. Pavilion Master, let's go to the southern region immediately. The Immortal Jade Bone is more important. As for Yen and the others, they should just be having fun for a while. They will come to find us soon. The Great Elder was very clear about his daughter's temperament. Spoiled and willful, he didn't know why she was pestering Elder Zhang. Elder Zhang would give face to her and let her do as she pleased most of the time. If she didn't contact him now, it was probably inconvenient for her to say it. Thinking about it, he didn't care anymore. The Breeze Pavilion Master nodded. Let's go. Everyone, let's go to the southern region. The group of people flew up in an instant and headed towards the southern region. And as they released their auras, the numerous powerhouses of true Spill continent were all startled. What's going on? In the direction of the Holy Court of the Empire of Qin, they sensed the auras of the people from the Breeze Pavilion. In an instant, the Grand Supreme Dean's expression changed. How could there be so many powerhouses? The Grand Supreme Dean sensed that the auras of this group of people were extremely powerful, and there were so many of them. The weakest among them was a Saint Realm powerhouse, and there were thousands of them. Not good. When he sensed that they were heading in the direction of the southern domain, the Grand Supreme Dean jumped up in shock. He knew that Luo Qingtong had sent a message to Su Xiaoxiao and the others, asking them to go to the southern region to improve their strength. However, he didn't ask too much. From the looks of it, this little kid couldn't have found something incredible again, right? She had actually attracted so many people. If he didn't guess wrong, these people were most likely from the hidden world. Oh my god. It was possible to send a few powerhouses from the hidden world over here. There were so many of them and they were so strong. Who knew how much effort it would take? What kind of good stuff did this last get this time? This caused the people of the hidden world to go to war. Not only that, judging from their aura strength and numbers, they were at least from a 6th class sect. Oh my god. The Grand Supreme Dean instantly ran out in a flurry. That evil Dr. Child and Ming Zun must hold on. Otherwise, he didn't want to have anything to do with the hidden world anymore. The Grand Supreme Dean had a bitter expression on his face as he hurried towards the southern mountain range. In the southern region, deep within the space at the bottom of the cliff, Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianming met a monster that was much stronger than any of the monsters they had encountered before. Boom! The monster walked like a mountain. Its entire body looked like it was covered in iron armor. It had 5 heads. The fur on its body stood up like metal, making it look like a hedgehog. However, those hairs could instantly become as soft as whips. Boom! The moment it saw Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianming, the monster rushed towards them. Qianming, help me hold the line. Luo Qingtong looked at the monster rushing towards them and licked her lips. Chapter 1788. The Immortal Jade Bone's quality was higher and bigger than the ones Luo Qingtong had encountered along the way. Obviously, this monster was the strongest monster in the space at the bottom of the cliff so far. Luo Qingtong looked at its strength. Holy Lord Realm. He murmured. Very good, this monster was very strong. But she liked it. Swoosh. Luo Qingtong's figure swept up in an instant and rushed in the direction of the monster. As for Yi Qianxian, when she asked him to help her, the sleeves of his robe behind his back moved slightly. Boom! The aura around the man's body surged out in an instant and shrouded the rushing monster. It didn't hurt it, but it blocked all its escape routes. Roar! The monster felt Yi Qianxian's aura shrouding it, but it didn't feel any substantial damage, so it didn't care too much. Bang! It raised its feet heavily in an instant and stomped fiercely at Luo Qingtong, who was rushing toward it. Luo Qingtong naturally wouldn't fight with the strength of a holy lord realm. She had hunted and obtained a lot of immortal jade bones along the way, so her strength had reached the level of a holy master. At this moment she would use this monster to train and consolidate her strength. Swoosh! The bloody light in Luo Qingtong's eyes flickered. Her figure seemed to be guided by something and constantly flashed back and forth around the monster. The arc of every movement was just right, so the monster's attack couldn't catch her. The monster was dizzy from her movements and it roared angrily. At this moment, boom! Luo Qingtong unsheathed the life and death yin-yang sword in her hand and slashed at the monster. Bloody cross slash! As Luo Qingtong's voice sounded. In an instant, a beam of black and white light mixed with the blood-colored sword light formed a cross shape, flying forward in a whirling manner. Boom! The sword light slashed fiercely on the monster's body. In an instant the monster was forced to take 2 steps back, but its body was unscathed. Obviously this move's attack power was limited. Looks like I'll have to find another martial skill cultivation method to cultivate in the future. Otherwise just this bloody cross slash alone is not enough. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. She had chosen to practice the Crimson Cross Slash when she had broken through to the Saint stage in the Saint King's tomb. She originally thought that it could be used for a long time, but she didn't expect that with the rapid growth of her strength, it was no longer useful. Swoosh! Seeing that the monster was attacking her again, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes and jumped up again. She held her sword in front of her chest. Heaven Conquering Art. Heaven Seizing Move. As her voice sounded, a sword light as white as snow suddenly swept out in front of her and swept forward. That sword light seemed to have risen from the distant horizon. In an instant, it was as if the sun had suddenly appeared in the sky, as if dawn had broken. It was as if the sun had fallen from the sky, slashing horizontally towards the monster. Boom boom boom. The monster was instantly struck by Luo Qingtong's sword light and somersaulted violently. Chapter 1789. Gullies and abysses spread out from the place where its body had landed. The power of Luo Qingtong's attack was comparable to that of a holy lord. The monster's armor showed signs of cracking under Luo Qingtong's attack. It got up angrily and the hairs all over its body shot toward Luo Qingtong. The hairs that looked like the spikes of a hedgehog all left its body in an instant and blasted toward Luo Qingtong. Seeing this scene, Yi Qianxian frowned slightly. The attack power of each of these hairs was comparable to that of a holy lord. Luo Qingtong might not be able to block 10,000 of them. He clenched his fists slightly and was ready to attack at any time. At this moment Luo Qingtong's figure swept out. She rushed toward the monster in front of her in the face of the tens of thousands of hairs. Even a holy king would have to be on guard against the attack of these tens of thousands of hairs. However, for Luo Qingtong she was least afraid of such a dense attack. As the saying goes, many ants can bite an elephant to death. However, Luo Qingtong was the elephant that was not afraid of being bitten by ants. Swish! The bloody pupils in her eyes were opened to the extreme. The blood-red light in her eyes seeped out and dyed the whites of her eyes red. Under the influence of this blood-red mist, everything in this world seemed to be just a foil for her. Boom! Luo Qingtong rushed toward the monster in the face of the hairs. The latter had just unleashed such a powerful attack, and the power around his body was at its weakest. Bang! Luo Qingtong waved the life and death yin-yang sword in her hand, and an annihilation was launched. The life and death yin-yang sword instantly turned into a death blade. The black sword light was like a rainbow, and it rushed straight toward the monster's core like the Grim Reaper reaping lives. Swish! Under Luo Qingtong's control, the huge immortal jade bone in its body was instantly pulled out by the long sword in Luo Qingtong's hand. In an instant, the monster let out an extremely sharp and ear-piercing roar. All the power in its body came from that immortal jade bone. Without that immortal jade bone, It was just an ordinary mutated monster. Under Luo Qingtong's sword light, it could not withstand a single blow. If it were anyone else, even if they knew that there was an immortal jade bone in its body, they would not be able to know where it was. They could only attack it forcefully until it was completely killed. Without the power of the immortal jade bone, these monsters were naturally unable to withstand a single blow. Swish. Luo Qingtong raised her hand to catch the immortal jade bone that flew into the sky. The monster screamed and tried to snatch it. But Luo Qingtong waved the sword light in her hand and directly destroyed it without the immortal jade bone as a source of power. Bang! The monster's body instantly exploded and fell to the ground. Chapter 1790. The immortal jade bone was the size of a fist and its silvery gray hue was exceedingly obvious. Luo Qingtong's eyes lit up when she saw it. She'd only learned after hunting along the way that the higher the quality of an immortal jade bone, the deeper its hue. This meant that the more death and resentment it contained, the purer and greater the power within. The silvery white bead she'd first obtained actually didn't contain much power, which was why it had displayed such a hue. And at this moment, the immortal jade bone in Luo Qingtong's hand was so thick that it was almost dark gray. It was clear to see just how powerful and profound the power within was. Luo Qingtong had hunted so many immortal jade bones along the way, but none of them could compare to this one. Qianren, look. Luo Qingtong showed the immortal jade bone to Xianxia, who nodded slightly. The immortal qi within this immortal jade bone is extremely rich. Moreover, it is much stronger than the previous ones. You'll be able to reach the Holy Marquee realm if you refine it. Just like the monster from earlier, it had been an ordinary monster beast, but after consuming the immortal jade bone, it had mutated and reached the Holy Marquee realm. However, it hadn't been able to refine the death energy within the bone, so it had become a mindless, bloodthirsty monster under the onslaught of death and resentment. However, Luo Qingtong was different. She could absorb the power of the immortal jade bone without any worries as long as she let the ancient heaven spirit would purify the power of the immortal jade bone. Luo Qingtong nodded and released the ancient heavenly spirit wood sapling. The latter immediately wrapped its branches and leaves around the enormous immortal jade bone as soon as it came out. It was obvious that it was overjoyed. The death energy and resentment within the immortal jade bone was a great supplement for it. After all, it was the death energy and resentment formed from the deaths of those Xenorace experts. It contained their remnant souls and willpower. Streaks of dark gray energy were absorbed by the ancient heavenly spirit wood. The color of the immortal jade bone's power became lighter and lighter. Soon it became pure white and transparent. At the same time, the ancient heavenly spirit tree swayed its 5 leaves and returned to Luo Qingtong's spatial ring in satisfaction. Its branches and leaves swayed in the wind, and it was obvious that the bud of the 6th leaf had already sprouted. Burp. Luo Qingtong watched its branches and leaves tremble violently, as if it had made a big burp, and then it disappeared in front of her. Her lips twitched, and she quickly turned her attention to the huge purified immortal jade bone in front of her. Qianren, I'll refine it first. Such a large immortal jade bone was enough to raise her power to the sacred Marquee realm. Luo Qingtong wanted to refine it immediately. Yes. Xianxia nodded. I'll stand guard for you, he said in a deep voice. Yes. Luo Qingtong nodded and began to refine the immortal jade bone to raise her power. While she was refining it, Bei Qing, Fengyu and the others had already found the location of the hidden space. Master. The group appeared in front of Xianxia and bowed. We've already explored that space. Should we go and close it now? Chapter 1791. The evil doctor was still improving her strength. Did they need to wait for her? There's no need. As if he knew what they were thinking, Xianxia narrowed his eyes and said in a low voice, She just killed a Saint Lord monster. Let her rest here. Although it seemed easy for this woman to deal with that monster, she had actually expended a lot of energy. What's more, if that space was really as he guessed, a passage to the outer realm opened by someone, it would be useless for her to go there. It would be better for her to have a good rest here. Xianxia flicked his sleeves and said, Let's go. As he spoke, he waved his hand and a defensive light instantly descended from the sky, enveloping Luo Qingtong and an area of 100 meters around her. This was a defensive light condensed from Xianxia's own aura. Unless one's strength was above his, No one would be able to break through this defense and hurt Luo Qingtong. Let's go. The group rushed in the direction of that space. At this moment, Luo Qingtong was completely immersed in the aura of the immortal jade bones. These immortal jade bones were really rare treasures. After the resentment and death aura of the dead were extracted and purified, all that was left was the life's cultivation essence and cultivation comprehension of the experts from the other regions. After their deaths, these auras condensed and did not dissipate. The most essential part formed the immortal jade bones. As Luo Qingtong refined and absorbed the power of these immortal jade bones, it was as if she had received the collective cultivation of these experts from the other regions. The realm comprehension and power essence flowed into her body endlessly, automatically driving the aura in her body to circulate. The circulation of these auras was the path of advancement that the experts from the other regions had explored before. Under the guidance of these auras, Luo Qingtong's strength broke through one barrier after another without any hindrance and continued to rise. The aura around her surged violently. The pure power of the immortal jade bones attracted many monsters that were drooling with desire. However, before they could get close to Luo Qingtong, they were shattered by the power of Xianxia in the light circle. At this moment, those monsters no longer dared to get close to Luo Qingtong. They only dared to watch from afar. After an unknown period of time, boom boom boom. The aura around Luo Qingtong suddenly exploded. The energy in her body shot out rapidly and broke through the light circle that Xianxia had enveloped her. Roar. Sensing that the layer of terrifying power around her had disappeared, the monsters that were watching from afar immediately charged towards her. Bang! They stomped heavily on the ground, causing the ground to tremble. The entire ground made a rumbling sound as if it was about to collapse. Under the vibration of the sound, Luo Qingtong's eyes suddenly opened. Saint Lord. The aura around her body shook violently. Then with a boom her body shot up. Life and Death Yin-Yang sword. With the black and white sword in her hand, Luo Qingtong raised her hand and waved it. Boom boom boom. The monsters in front of her were all sliced into pieces by this sword. Blood rained down from the sky and minced meat flew everywhere. Chapter 1792. Qianren isn't here? Luo Qingtong glanced around. She put away the immortal jade bones and thought that Xianxia should have gone to the sealed space with Bei Qing and the others. Seeing that she was in the middle of a breakthrough, he didn't call her? Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows slightly, then a faint enchanting smile appeared on her lips. Since that's the case, I'll go back first. Xianxia and the others shouldn't need her. It just so happened that she had obtained a batch of immortal jade bones of very pure quality. She could take them back to improve her grandfather's strength. When Xianxia and the others were done, they should come out directly. As Luo Qingtong thought of this, she immediately got up and rushed towards the outer area. At this time, in the sky above the southern region. Swish. One figure after another suddenly appeared in the sky. A group of people from the Breeze Pavilion appeared in the sky above the southern region. They were shocked to see the shattered scene of the southern region. They weren't surprised by the destruction of the southern region. They were surprised by the scene of destruction, as well as the aura that was faintly mixed in. It's the aura of the land of the fallen immortals. Everyone was pleasantly surprised. In the hidden world, they had seen countless times when the aura of the land of the fallen immortals became violent and the immortal jade bones erupted. Naturally, they knew what was going on in the southern region. They were all excited. Haha. I didn't expect that we didn't need to do anything. The space crack actually split open by itself. It looks like the immortal jade bones have already erupted and landed here. Let's go, let's look around. The group of people from the Breeze Pavilion was ecstatic. They didn't expect that they would be so lucky to encounter the eruption of the southern region's heaven and earth spiritual energy. Looking at the situation, the immortal jade bones should have already erupted. At that time, no one in the true Spill continent would be able to compete with them for the immortal jade bones. These things would all belong to them. When they returned to the hidden world, their Breeze Pavilion's reputation would surely soar, and their strength would rise to another level. After all, this immortal jade bone could be exchanged for many good things. Not to mention, the more immortal jade bones he had, the more rewards he could obtain from the land of the fallen immortals. That place was a treasure trove. Everyone was overjoyed. However, within the group, there was one person who was unhappy from beginning to end. Senior brother Lanyue, what's wrong? A disciple of the Breeze Pavilion looked at him and asked. I'm fine. Yan Yuju shook her head. She looked forward and frowned slightly. He hoped that after the sect obtained the immortal jade bone, they would immediately leave the true Spill continent and return to the hidden world. Otherwise, she thought about how Song Yan had always been against Luo Qingtong, and how the Great Elder was accompanying the sect this time. He was really afraid that the other party would allow Song Yan to do something that would harm Luo Qingtong. Luckily, when they arrived at the true Spill continent, Song Yan and the others hadn't appeared. Yan Yuju also relaxed. As long as he quickly obtained the immortal jade bone and returned to the hidden world, he should be fine, right? As he was thinking, the Breeze Pavilion disciple beside him continued to speak. I say, Senior brother Lanyue, are you thinking about that girl called Luo Qingtong? Don't take things too hard. Let me tell you, junior sister Song Yan likes you. That's a good thing that many people can't even ask for.